The last decade has been an important one for movies, one that many would gladly forget in terms of violence and downtrends. War, terrorism, oppressive governments, ecological change, and a severe economic downturn seem to be the major hallmarks of the last 10 years, and you could feel those things imprinted in film psyche. Now, this regression in human progress has prompted an exploration into human regression. Vengeance has become a major theme. Violence in all its forms, portrayed in insightful character studies, to torture porn became ubiquitous and gripping. Comedies involving male arrested development and bodily fluids flourished. Movies involving women seem to be pushed further and further into the background as if they weren't rare enough already. And documentaries constantly portraying man made destruction seem to be coming out by the month. But there were exceptions, and one of them, like a light at the end of the tunnel, appeared near the end of the decade. Its vision of an abandoned Earth was desolate, yet it also was generous, sweet, and immensely hopeful. Wally, I believe, is the film of the decade for these reasons and many more. The film has some obvious assets, such as the use of its CGI, which is sublime in both its imagery and detail. You'll notice wondrous sights such as the large constructs made of trash and debris, or the ships that blast off into space. What you might miss is the depth of the abandoned city. The almost Christmas like way Wally has decorated his home. The radioactive wasteland like atmosphere of the shipyard where Eve and Wally get to know each other well. Or the lightness and warmth that seems to generate from within the space cruiser's confines. There is a level of technical craftsmanship here that is masterful and undeniable.
Time for lunch. In a cup.
For a film that is set in the future, it's wonderful to see how much it looks into the past. In terms of story elements, the film features clips from the musical Hello Dolly, which was merely a passable 1969 feature, but it uses it to touching effect. From Dolly's songs and images, Wally becomes aware of his solitary existence and learns perhaps a very innocent notion of love. In terms of technique, pretty much the entire portion of the film where Wally is on screen can be treated as a silent film. Its filmmakers watched Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin clips every day for an entire year during film production to learn how to properly convey the film's narrative without dialogue. It's amazing how much everything is said without saying anything at all. Aside from being an ecological parable and the cautionary tale against consumerism, Wally on another level is one of the sweetest love stories of the past few years, something that mainstream Hollywood seems to have forgotten how to do. Without words or human physical features, the film still manages to imbue this little rust bucket with pluck, curiosity, and innocence, giving him a kind of unforced, unaffected nobility. It's because of these characteristics which is why we start to care for him and wish for him to fulfill his relationship with Eve. What I find even more touching is how Wally, consciously or not, cherishes the remnants of humanity's creations. He tucks away devices and objects which he isn't entirely sure what they're for, such as a spork, a Rubik's Cube, and a light bulb. Whether or not he actually knows that he himself is a product of human ingenuity, it's still poignant to think that he values what we have created, since we ourselves seem to have lost sight of how far we've come, of the positives that man has achieved, and the potentials we still have unrealized. There is also a real beauty in some of the imagery being displayed here, in ways we expect and don't expect, so much so that it somehow manages to tear me up a bit. Its opening sequence showing the majesty of space, played alongside with Put on Your Sunday Clothes, conveying that sense of discovery and wonder, only to lead to the bleak desolation of Earth, as if it as if to convey what a waste we made and what a waste we have been.
Put on your Sunday clothes, there's lots of world out there. Get out the brilliantine and dime cigars. We're gonna find adventure in the evening air. Girls in white in a perfume night with the lights as bright as the stars.
We see Wally hanging on to that spacecraft which leads him to the migrated human race and get to see him touch the rings of Saturn. And the end credits, where we see the true ending of the film, where humanity, with the help of his sentient creations, rebuild what has been destroyed, all visualized in different art styles, from Paleolithic to Impressionist to 80s video games. And its final scrolling illustration of Wally and Eve looking at the tree whose roots emanate from a shoe speaks on so many levels on what man can do. We're coming down to the ground. There's no better place to go. Now, Wally is by no means a perfect movie. At times it can get too indulgent, and many times it tries to be a little bit too cute. But it earns the right to be cute and indulgent by the story it tries to tell. But when it comes to its indulgences, what indulgences they are. It's this optimistic outlook, well, not optimistic, hopeful outlook from the film, driven along with its glorious filmmaking, both stylistic and technical, which moves me. In many ways, I am drawn to films like this, speaking about humanity and its place in the universe, despite how corny that all sounds. There are other great films such as An Inconvenient Truth, AI, Children of Men, which show us what we are losing. And yet, this film, perhaps because by its very nature of being animated, is somehow able to filter through the very basics of that theme. And it conveys a touching theme of two human creations using the best of human traits such as bravery, love, and commitment to save us from ourselves. When Stanley Kubrick gave his story AI to Steven Spielberg for him to direct, perhaps he had hope for mankind. Maybe he didn't know how to convey it in a humane sensibility, something that Spielberg is masterful at. What I felt that Kubrick was trying to say in that film was that humans won't make it, but the best of humanity will carry on in our creations, which will somehow be a perfect blend of intellect and emotion. AI and Wally both show robots in an age where man has left the earth. AI was about the end of man and what comes next. Wally is more hopeful, saying, "We'll still be here and we'll see what comes next." This is Michael Mirasol, and I hope this was helpful.